What is up, everybody? I hope you're doing very well. As you can tell, I have a different background, and that is because I'm finally home after the Czech Olympiad. Now, I never did the recap of the last game because, well, my mother actually won a gold medal in the Olympiad, and so I wanted to be in the prize ceremony to celebrate her. But now I'm back home and I wanna do the recap of this last round. It was a round full of emotions, a crazy game, a game that I want to remember, a game I don't want to remember. I'm gonna show you everything about it, but before I do that, guys, I just need to say thank you because, well, a while ago we passed 100,000 subscribers, but whilst I was away in the Olympiad, I received something very special. So let me go ahead and grab it and show you. Ta-da! Oh, you guys can see the chest now. Ta-da! Here it is, my 100,000 subscribers YouTube button. Thank you guys so much for supporting this channel, for watching, for subscribing, everything. Let's go ahead and, you know, try to keep this going and reach new heights, but I'm so thankful that, you know, I was able to get this. So thank you guys so much. This is my badge, but this is also your badge. Yay! Alright guys, let's go ahead and get into round 11 of the Czech Olympiad. I was playing with the white pieces against woman grandmaster Karolina Pilsova, who's rated 2230. This was the last match, so it was important for us to not lose this match. Alright guys, let me just show you the game. So I played d4, the first move. This was like a match at 10 a.m. in the morning, okay? Like, this game literally happened so early in the morning. I was so tired this game, I remember, this morning, because I had actually had a hard time falling asleep that day. But yeah, I mean, chess should be illegal at 10 a.m. in the morning. I don't have any brain at that point. So, well, anyways, I went d4, she went knight f6, c4, e6. Now, I wanted to avoid a Nimzo-Indian because I thought that she had it very prepared because I only play one line in the Nimzo-Indian. So I went for knight f3 instead of knight c3, which would allow bishop b4 check. Now here, I was kind of expecting bishop b4, but she went b6. And the idea is that now that my knight is on f3, I haven't gone knight c3, and I don't have so much control of this e4 square. So she's taking advantage of that and putting the bishop on this diagonal because of that. So now I went knight c3, bishop b7, and I can't go e4. So I went bishop g5 just to pin the knight, and also because at some point then maybe I can go e4 a little bit later. So h6, she's kicking away my bishop, and I went bishop h4 just to still stay in this diagonal. I could have taken the knight, bishop takes, queen takes, and gone e4 just to get a lot of space, but I didn't really want to get rid of my bishop pair. So I went back, she went bishop e7, and I went e3. Now, maybe at this point, I mean, I could have gone queen c2 to try to prepare e4, but I wanted to just develop my pieces as quickly as possible. So I think e3 is good to later prepare bishop d3, queen e2, and then go e4 after I've castled. So she went d6, and I went bishop d3, knight b d7. She's just developing castles, castles, and queen e2. So I went for my plan of simply pushing. Now here, I kind of thought she was going to go c5. And then after c5, well, I was thinking that I could probably just stay the way I was, maybe put my rooks in on d1 and try to like work on this file. But she went e5, and I don't know, I was kind of happy when she went for this because, I mean, right now I cannot take because there's going to be bishop takes knight, queen takes, and then knight takes. And one of these two pieces, I mean, I'm going to have to exchange, and I don't want that. But I thought that at some point I will be able to take here and I'll have a great position, because she's then going to have to open up, you know, she's going to have to take at some point with this pawn, and she's going to open up her d file, and that's going to be really good for me. And this pawn is also going to be a bit weak if I ever go bishop g3. So that is basically the idea with that. So I decided, and also if she ever goes e4, then this pawn is going to be very weak here as she can't go d5 because of my pawn. So I just simply thought that this was good for me. So I went bishop c2 just to threaten to take on e5 and then put my rooks in and stuff. And she went rook e8. So I just took on e5, was very happy. And here I was expecting knight takes e5, but then I thought takes, and I'll be able to go rook d1, and her queen is going to be in a very awkward position. she took on f3, but now I had the bishop here, so I was very happy. After queen takes f3, knight takes e5 was played. I went back to e2 because my queen is best placed over here, defending this pawn. And she went knight fd7. Now, this was another move that I was a little bit surprised about, because at this point, I realized that there must be some tactic for me. Simply because her squares are so weak. This diagonal is open. I was just sure that there had to be something. So in this position, I was thinking for maybe like 20 minutes, just to think about how I can really improve my position. I also realized that I had this fantastic square on d5 for my knight. So this was a point where I really thought, okay, now I need to think. There is something here. I really had a feeling that there was something here. Now, the reason why she wanted to go knight d7 was because she wanted to defend this knight. She wanted maybe to go knight c5 at some point. And yeah, I guess that she just simply thought that her knight was better placed here than here. But here, she's letting go of this square, right? So I went bishop takes e7. She took back with the rook, because if she takes back with the queen, I'll be able to go knight d5, threaten the queen. Whenever the queen goes back, this pawn is, going to be weak. And, I don't know. I'm just going to have such a fantastic position. There's all the time that the threat of f4, because if she goes knight c6, well, maybe I can go queen f3. And she has a weird diagonal going on here. But she took with the rook because of that. And here I went f4, which is a really good move. And after knight g6, which is basically her only move. If she goes knight over here, then I will have bishop e4. And then she basically has to take here because I'm threatening to take the knight, and if the knight moves, then I'll be taking the rook, and I'll still be able to put my knight on d5. So this is a really, this is just a terrible position for her. If she goes knight b8, which is literally the only move she can do to defend this knight, then I will just simply be able to go something like queen f3, and I will be putting even more pressure on this knight. Maybe I can even go bishop d5 and then go b4. There's a lot of moves that I can do here, but maybe queen f3 I can do. And this is just a very strong move, just attacking here. And if she goes into something like queen e8 or something, well, then I can perhaps go b4. So, this was just terrible for her. So she couldn't go there. So she had to go knight g6. And here I was also thinking for a while, and I ended up realizing that I had a plan of going f5, f6, and she couldn't really stop it. So I went f5 here. She went knight e5, and here I went for f6. Now, I know that the engine is right now saying that this is bad, but yeah, I think it's good. And okay, I'm gonna show you the line that the engine is saying. I think that if we let the engine think a little bit, the engine is gonna say that this is good, because when I checked it after the game, they were saying that this is good. But right now on the depth that I have right now, you guys can see the eval bar. This is saying that this was a mistake. But I'll let you guys decide if this was a mistake or not, because all of this is forced. She cannot do anything apart from knight takes f6, because I'm threatening the rook, and I'm threatening to take on g7. If she pushes the rook back to e8, I'll be able to take on g7, and her king is going to be a complete disaster. She cannot allow this. Yeah, she really cannot. So she needs to go knight takes f6, and the idea here is to sacrifice an exchange. To go rook takes f6, pawn takes f6. Now, here, what the point is that I have sacrificed an exchange and a pawn, but this rook is not working whatsoever, and I'm going to be able to bring all my pieces into attack. This knight, this bishop, this queen, and this rook. And she's not going to be using this rook. And the attack that I'm going to have is incredible. So, perhaps this, objectively was not the best. Maybe it would have been best to just, centralize my pieces before. But practically, this became incredibly hard for her to play against. And I did not see how she could save this, and she did not see how she could save this. So, I'll show you what happened. So, I went knight d5 here. I am threatening the rook, and I am threatening this pawn on f6. Now, probably in this position, her best chance is to go c6, just sacrifice the exchange, and, just have us play this position where her king is terrible, which I thought would be good for me, because her king right now, like I said, is terrible. After this, I'll be able to take, go queen h5. Probably she can go queen f8. I will go rook f1. I'll be attacking this pawn. She's going to have to go, king g7, and I'll be able to, bring my pieces in. And, I think practically it's really hard to play this. So, But she went rook e6, and which it looks logical just to put some extra defense on this pawn. I went bishop f5 just to centralize my bishop. This is a double idea sort of move, because I am not just like attacking the exchange. I am also blocking her from ever being able to go f5. So, for instance, if I would have gone queen h5 here now, probably she could have gone f5, just so that after bishop takes f5, she could have gone perhaps rook g6, and just basically sacrifice the exchange just to get like a better like king's position. So, I mean, maybe not in that position exactly, but sometimes she might sacrifice the pawn just to be able to defend and like put her pieces in better squares. So bishop f5 I thought was good just to really force her to keep this pawn structure. Now, after bishop f5, she went c6. So the idea of c6 is that if I take on e6 and she takes back, then all of a sudden her pawns are not going to be so terrible. She's not going to have these double pawns anymore. She's going to be a pawn up, and perhaps she will be like even better, because it's going to be a lot easier for her to defend then the king when these pawns are not doubled anymore. So I didn't want to take on e6, so I decided to keep my knight, and I went knight f4, now really threatening to take on e6, because if she lets me take here, then we're going to be completely equal material, and her king is going to be terrible. And because like this pawn, I mean, I'll be able to like get this pawn. I mean, these two pawns will be pretty weak. So she basically needs to move the rook, and she went rook e8. Now after this, I was able to go queen h5, threatening this pawn, and I think that rook e8 might have been a mistake. I think that she should have gone rook e7, because then after queen h5, she would have been able to go queen f8. But now after queen h5, she doesn't have queen f8 anymore to defend this pawn. And if I'm able to get this pawn, I'm basically checkmating her. Like, it's gonna be really hard for her to defend the checkmate. So in this position, she went for king g7, which is the only move. And I had calculated all this like when I went f6 back before and sacrificed my exchange. I had already seen this position. So I went queen h4 here. And after queen h4, my threat is knight h5 check, winning this pawn. And I mean, if I'm able to put a knight over here, then she's not really going to be able to like defend this pawn on h6. So her old position is going to crumble. So in this position, this was probably already like pretty hard for her to play. I think she should have gone rook h8, but she went rook g8. And after rook g8, her threat is to go knight f3 check. So if I ever go like knight h5 and she goes king f8, then her threat is to go knight f3 check because of this pin, and then she can get my queen. So I decided to, you know, bring my last piece into the attack. I thought, okay, all my pieces are attacking her king. The only one that's not is this rook. Let me put the rook on f1, both to defend her knight f3 check, but also to put some extra pressure on this f6 pawn. So here she went queen e7, and I was able to go knight h5 check. And after queen f8, king f8, I was able to take on f6. Now the idea here is that I am threatening this pawn on h6, and if I'm able to go queen takes h6, well then I'm checkmating her. So she needs to defend that. Now I was thinking that if rook h8, I could go bishop h7 just to block everything, and okay, maybe then she has to go king g7, but this is so scary for her to play. Like, all my pieces are working here. She went h5 in this position, and here I was pretty low on time, and the idea is that I cannot take her with the queen, because then she's able to go queen takes knight, and I don't have any check winning the queen, and I cannot take with the knight because then my queen is hanging. So I decided to do a waiting move. I decided to go h3, and the purpose of h3 is also that I wanted to threaten bishop h7, but I couldn't really go bishop h7 here because I was thinking maybe at some point she might be able to go knight g4, and then my knight is pinned. So because I can never take because of this, so I decided to, you know what, go h3, get my king some air, but also stop her from ever being able to play knight g4 or rook g4 or whatever, now that my queen is pinned. So I think that h3 was a good move. And here she went rook g7. Now, after rook g7, I just decided to take on h5. Perhaps it would have been better to go bishop e4 to defend this knight first, but the idea of queen takes h5 is that after queen takes f6, I have queen h8 check, and I'm winning the rook. We were both very low on time here. Now, in this position, she should probably have gone rook takes g2. And after king takes g2, she should have gone queen takes f6. Because now I don't have this check anymore. And now this is actually not so clear. And this is why it was important for me to go bishop e4 first. So taking on h5 is actually a blunder due to rook takes g2. So here I should have gone bishop e4 just so that my knight is defended and then threatened to do this because she cannot really defend it. So that was a mistake, but she didn't see it. She went queen takes f6, and after queen h8, she cannot go rook g8 because I'm taking the queen. She has to go king takes e7, king e7, and then I can take on a8. Now in this position, I'm completely winning. I'm completely winning because all my pieces are working. Her king is terrible. Her pawns are all crumbling. I'm gonna win so much material. So this is completely winning for me. In move 31. This is amazing for me. She went rook g5 in this position. I went e4 first just to defend the bishop. Maybe I could have taken it on a7 first, but okay, I thought that it was fine to just defend the bishop. I was very low on time here. I only had a few seconds. I took on a7 with check, king f8. I took on b6. I was just trying to take all the pawns so that in an endgame, I would always be winning. Now, after rook g3, I got a little bit scared. Probably I should just go king h2 or something because there isn't really any attack. But I got a little bit scared when I was low on time. So I went back with the queen, but I think that I should not go back with the queen. So queen f2, queen g5, and here I went bishop g4, threatening. She was very low on time here too, threatening that, you know, if she takes on g4 with the knight, I have a checkmate on f7. She went rook d3, and here I just decided that I wanted to exchange queens. Now, in this position, she didn't want to exchange queens because she thought that the endgame was just winning. After queen h4, I went queen f6, but this is actually a mistake. In this moment, c5 is just winning. This move is just winning on the spot. This like plus 4.5, just completely winning on the spot. The idea is that she cannot move her knight because then there's a checkmate. And if she takes on c5, I'll be able to take the knight and I'll be winning a piece. So this is just absolutely terrible for her. I mean, her best move here is to go queen g3. Then I can take, and then I can take on d6. And I will literally be 4 pawns up in an endgame. Like, it's completely winning if c5. But I was scared. I was low on time. That was move 38. And I went queen f6 because I really wanted to exchange queens. And here, she exchanged queens. She went king e7. And I went rook f2. Now, rook f2 was probably a mistake. I should probably go rook f4 and defend this pawn, just so that I really do not lose a pawn. And this was the move 40, but that is what I should have done, because whenever she goes knight c4, I have bishop e2, and if I'm able to exchange this bishop for the knight, I'm going to be winning the rook endgame. It's very easy. But this knight is actually better than what it looks. This knight is actually amazing here. So it's important for me to be 3 pawns up if I'm going to be playing against this knight, just to make it easier for me. So it would have been really important for me to go rook f4, but I went rook f2, just because I wanted to stop her from going rook d2. But like I said, this was a mistake. And now I was at move 40. Her move 40 was rook d4, which was a good move, threatening both the pawn on e4 and the pawn on c4. Now, when I was here, I just thought, okay, I mean, 3 pawns up. Okay, I'll lose a pawn, but I'll be in an endgame 2 pawns up. This is an easy win. Probably an easy win, but not easy for me win. So here I made a mistake. I went bishop f5, thinking that my bishop would be really strong here because it would really help my pawn to push. And my pawn, this h pawn and the a pawn, they're both very strong. I have 2 passed pawns right now, the a and h pawn. So I really just wanted to work with them. So I went bishop f5, and okay, this is not terrible, but probably bishop e2 would have been a little bit better because actually this bishop became a little bit off the game here on f5. It was a bit hard for me to play with this bishop, having it over here. So she took on c4 with the knight, and here I went g4 because I wanted to create a path for my king. Now she went knight d2, and I went rook e2 here, which is a good move. I'm just defending everything. She went king f6, and here I did a move which, okay, may not look so bad. It's probably good, but practically it would have been a million times better to go king g2 instead of king f2. And I didn't realize it during the game. Now, the reason for that is because if the king ever gets to f4, I will always be able to go rook f2 and kick the king away with my rook with my king on g2. I will always be able to stop that. She's never really able to take on e4 because once again, if she exchanges this knight for this bishop, I'm probably winning. And especially, I mean, if we exchange all these pieces, the pawning game is always winning for me because I have 2 passed pawns. It's impossible for her to stop both the H pawn and the A pawn with the king. And I knew this. But I went king f2, and okay, this is, you know, not so bad, but it became maybe practically a little bit harder. So she went king a5. She's just basically trying to bring the king in, and I went h4, thinking that she has absolutely nothing in this position. So h4, and she went king f4. And here, I did not see what her threat was. I was thinking about a bunch of things. I knew that she couldn't take on e4 because then we'll just exchange everything and my pawn will become a queen. I was thinking about all sorts of different things. I was thinking about stuff like knight c4, knight e3 to maybe go for, you know, some checkmate over here. But I thought that at any point, if she ever goes knight c4, I mean, I just thought that she wouldn't really be able to ever go knight e3 because I can take her. So I didn't really see how she could, you know, create a threat. I understood that here she was really like trying to create some checkmate pattern, but I couldn't see how she was going to do it. So I just decided to keep on going with my pawn. Now, h5 is a terrible mistake. Here, I need to go king g2. Otherwise, I mean, it's almost, I mean, a draw. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. And I didn't see the plan that she had. I had quite a lot of time here, and I didn't see it. And I was pretty tired here, but I really thought that if I go h5, that she's not going to be able to stop this. So here I need to go king g2 if I want to win the game in a comfortable way. And the idea of king g2 is once again to go rook f2. And this is why I'm saying that practically it would have been so much easier for me to go king g2 before. And I need to do this just to be able to go rook f2 check at any point, and also so that after knight f3, I can always pin her with rook f2. Now, I went h5, and now she went knight f3, and now I realized the issue that I had. I hadn't seen this move. The issue is that if I go rook e3, then she has rook d2 check, and I need to go back. It's a draw. If I continue pushing my pawn, she has rook d1, and here I'm almost getting checkmated. I mean, if I continue pushing, she's going to go rook h1. And okay, I mean, this is a draw. I mean, it's not a checkmate, but it looked very scary to me. She's stopping me from pushing. I don't know what I'm going to do. Let's see that I go king g2. She's going to have rook h2 check. After king f1, she's going to be able to just go back and forth. And okay, I was a little bit scared about this for some reason. But okay, I mean, this is just a draw. So I saw that this would just be a draw in that case. So if I just like don't do anything, this is, you know, gonna be, I mean, if I just continue with my plan, there's gonna be a draw. So in this position, I was also thinking, you know, what can I do? Because now the issue is that if I go king g2, she can go rook d1, and I don't have time for rook f1 because she has a checkmate here. You know, this is, you know, beautiful. So I realized my issue after knight f3, I mean, I had an incredible issue. I didn't know what to do. So the only move that I have here if I want to push for the win is e5, and I found this move. Now, I thought that after e5, she was going to go d5 to go for the same threats, and actually I wasn't entirely sure about how to win here. I mean, after e5, I need to go e6, and after it takes, I need to go bishop c2. And then, you know, try to take here with the rook. Otherwise, I'm just going to be losing this pawn. Her knight is going to become really good. And this was not so easy. But she actually took knight e5, and actually now I was pretty happy. I went h6. And okay, so far I was really happy with my game. I mean, the only bad move that I've done in the game is to go king f2 instead of, or to not go king g2, to go h5 instead of king g2. And okay, like that's, at least for me, that was pretty hard to see. So I was actually really happy with my game so far. I thought that I had played a good game, and, you know, I was being able to see all of these ideas. I was actually really happy so far. But from this point, I started to crumble a little bit. So I went h6, and this is good. And I saw that after h6, the only way that she can stop the pawn is to go rook b4. So here I went h7, she has to go rook b8. And here I just went for rook check, the idea being that after king g3, I wanted to go rook b4. Now maybe this is a little bit unnecessary, but I just wanted to activate my rook and put her rook in a more passive square so that I could start pushing over here. So here she has to go rook h8. She cannot take on b4 because then I'm making a queen. So she has to go rook h8. And now I started pushing my pawn on a4. Now here, it would have been easier for me to go rook b7, because then if she ever goes into knight g6, I can just go rook takes f7, and she cannot take this pawn. So I immediately after a4, I saw that I should have gone rook b7. So I was pretty upset at myself for not doing it, because actually after rook b7, I don't know how she's going to defend this. I mean, after king f6, I mean, then I'll probably be able to just start pushing. I can go a4, I can start pushing. So Actually, I wasn't so sure about what she was gonna do. So, but I went a4. I just wanted to start pushing with my passed pawn. She went knight g6. And this is actually very beautiful. Perhaps in this position, I can go a5. Perhaps this is the best move here. The idea being that after rook takes h7, I can go a6. And after rook over here, then in this position, she's just going to get like a very passive rook. So, I mean, maybe in this position, I can start with going king g3, just so that her pieces cannot get active. And after rook a8 or something, then I can take over here. And then I can just go rook b6. And now her king is not able to get active at any point. But in this position, after knight g6, I took on g6 with the bishop, thinking that after king takes g6, I had rook b6, and I would be able to take one of these pawns and then, you know, get two passed pawns, which, okay, I'm just going to be a pawn up over here, but I thought this would be pretty comfortable for me to be to have two passed pawns together. So she took on h7, and okay, here I cannot go rook takes c6 because she has rook h2 check, and I'm losing this pawn, and I knew that then it was just going to be a draw. Because I need to have two passed pawns if I want to try to push for the win. Now, I played a5 over here, and at this point, I saw that we were losing 2-1, so I understood that at this point, I need to win this game if we're going to tie the match. I mean, it was up to me. I needed to win this game. If I draw or if I lose, we lose the match. So here I started to really push for the win, and I kind of had the mindset that if I draw or I lose, it's the same thing for the team. I need to push for the win until the end because otherwise we're just losing the match. So just keep that in mind. At this point, I was just really thinking that I need to win. So I was really doing everything from what I understood to try to win here. Probably in a normal game. I mean, here I was still thinking that I was super winning, but actually this is not as easy as I thought it was. But yeah, in an individual like tournament, I would probably like not had that mindset, but yeah. I had that mindset from this point when I realized that. So here she went f5, and here I did a mistake. Here, it's crucial for me to not take on f5. The moment I take on f5, it's a draw. And I didn't realize it, but her king will always be right in time to defend these pawns. And I didn't understand that. Here I was pretty low on time, and I was just trying to play fast. But here, if I want to push for the win, I need to go rook takes c6. The idea being that after king rook h2, I can go king e3. And after rook takes b2, I can go rook takes d6. And if her king goes up, then I can go take on f5, and now this is winning because my king is now going to be in time to be able to like support my pawn. Typically, when you only have an a pawn, it's a draw, but because my king is so close and her king is going to be cut off the board, I'm going to be able to win this game. But I didn't realize it. So here, the moment she went f5, it was crucial to me to take here because she doesn't have rook h2 check now. And now if she takes on g4, well, then I'll go rook takes d5. And okay, if the king goes to f5, now in this position, I'll be able to go b4. And I think in my brain, I was a little bit scared about this, but this pawn is not so strong. My king is, you know, stopping this from promoting. My rook is also supporting. So what's crucial here is that I get the two passed pawns together, because two passed pawns together are so strong. And this, I'll probably win. The moment that I went g takes f5, it was a draw. But I didn't realize it was a draw. I still was thinking that I was winning. Because for so many moves during the game, I had been winning. So here, I still thought that I was winning. And so, I started playing terrible here. So king takes f5. I knew that if I now take on c6, rook h2 check, I'll lose this pawn. And I thought this was going to be a draw because the king will be in time. So I went a6 here just to really make sure that she cannot ever, like, that she doesn't have time to get her rook out. But now her king is getting very close. So king e5, I went rook b7, she went rook h1, rook b3, she went back. Here, obviously, I could have gone a draw with rook b7, but I was trying to push for the win in a drawn position because I knew that if we draw, if I draw, we lose the match. So I went rook a3, she went rook a7, I went king e3, and okay, this is still a draw, I mean. But here, it's pretty important for me to be careful. And here I was always playing 30 seconds on the clock. And this was actually, now she's the one who's going to be better because I'm probably going to lose this pawn. It's going to be hard for me to defend this pawn. So here I went king e4, which is good. She went king b4, and I went rook a3, which is good. king b5, and now the issue is that, like I said, I'm going to be losing this pawn, and this is not so easy. So I went rook d3, which is good. D5, she's defending. King over here is good, and she went king takes a6 and king c5. And here, okay, here I realized that I need to try to get a draw because I'm a pawn down. So here I realized that, okay, Anna, you can't win this. Like, what are you doing? So here I was trying to get a draw. I was very low on time. And after king b7, I went king d6, which is good. Rook a6. Rook g3. This is good. I'm trying to get my rook on the on this open file. And she went rook b6. Now in this position, I panicked, and I had seen that after rook b7 check, king a6, and king c5, I'd seen that this was probably a draw because she needs to move the rook. She cannot go anywhere with the king. If king here, we have a checkmate. Well, it's not a checkmate, but I mean, okay, this, it should be, yeah, there's b4 maybe. No, actually, she's losing a rook. King a5, there's rook a7, and after rook a6, there's b4, and she's losing the rook. So she cannot do this. So she needs to go in this position, rook b5 pretty much. I mean, if d4, then I'll just take the pawn, and then she'll lose this pawn too. So she needs to go rook b5 check, and I was able to take, and then I can take here. And I knew that this was just a draw because her king is cut off, and I'll be able to win this pawn. So I knew that this was a draw, but for some reason, I thought maybe in some of these lines, I will lose, you know, my b2 pawn. So probably it's better to just go b3. And this was, I mean, a terrible move. And okay, this is still a draw, but now it's a lot harder because she went rook b5 and now she's really cutting off my king. Now I don't have king c5 anymore. And if I go rook b7 check, then she has king b6. So here I went rook c5, rook c3. And now I'm just lost. I mean, here I probably need to go rook d3 if I want to keep a draw. And this is a draw, but here I just went rook c3, and this is just completely losing. And I mean, I think I went down to 2 seconds when I did this move. I was panicking. I was really stressed, and I just did a terrible move. And the idea here is that after d4, I cannot take here because she has rook b6, and I cannot stop the pawn. So here, after rook d3, after rook d3 in this position, she has rook d5 check, king e6, and now this is just a lost endgame for me because my king is completely cut off. She's gonna win this pawn at some point, and it's completely impossible for me to do anything about it. So, I mean, she was just able to move her king around, and in this position, I mean, I don't have anything. I mean, yeah, of course, it's just completely lost. So, in this position, I resigned, and I was very sad after this because I felt like I was winning for all the game, but later when I analyzed, I realized that she actually had played really well in defending and she had a lot of ideas, and in some crucial moments I didn't figure out the best move, and that was the reason why I wasn't able to win the game. I mean, I was sad that I hadn't gotten a draw because I should draw. Of course, I mean, it's so many points I could just draw, and I knew how to draw, but I was just pushing for a win in a position where I couldn't win. But I think that was a bit psychological that I had just been winning for so long, and I knew that I had to win for us to tie the match, that I just couldn't accept not winning. So I think that was a mistake by me. Obviously, I should have drawn. That would have been good individually for me. A draw against the WGM would have brought me a lot of rating for my performance, but also, I mean, for the team, at least would have gone 1 extra health point, even if we lost the match. So it was a bad mistake by me to, you know, lose the game, but in that moment when I was low in time and I was just so sad and mad about not winning before, I just made that mistake. So that was very sad. I was very sad about after this game, and yeah, but I've gotten over it. It took me a day to process it. It was sad that this was the last Olympiad game, but I got over it, and I am happy with myself because I feel like I played well until the end game. And I've realized that one of my issues is that I'm not great at endgame, so that's actually something that I'm working on and that I'm going to be working on before the next tournament. But overall, I was happy with my opening. I was happy with the middle game. In several of the games during the tournament, I feel like I had played really well the opening and middle game. Maybe not the opening, but at least the middle game. And it was especially in the endgames that I was lacking. So this tournament has made me realize that I need to improve my endgames, and that if I do, you know, maybe I can win these sort of games against WGMs, which is fantastic. So I definitely feel inspired to play more tournaments and everything. And yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed seeing this recap. Unfortunately, we lost 3-1 and our lasting position was not so great after losing this match. So that was really unfortunate. But my mom did win a gold medal as the best board 1 of the tournament, which is fantastic. This was her 3rd gold medal ever in her life. She won 2 gold medals in the 80s, and now this was the first time in like 40 years that she got one. So that was amazing, and it was actually really fun to be able to celebrate her. It kind of made me forget this game. So we went to the prize ceremony and we celebrated her, and you know, let me know in the comments down below if you want me to bring my mom to a YouTube video and she can talk about, you know, her experiences, show the medal, show how it is to, you know, be a Olympiad gold medalist. But anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed the game. This was an instructive game. It was not as easy as I thought it was. She played really well with a lot of ideas in the end game. But yeah, guys, like and subscribe. Hope that you guys have been enjoying the recap videos from the Olympiad. We're gonna be having, you know, some new videos coming very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a very, very, very wonderful day. Bye bye.